I think we have time for a quick third one, which I think, we've addressed on the whole, but it is from Patrick, and he says a thank you from this Milan fan located in Salt Lake, Utah. Well, hello again. How far off is Milan? I love the way that you sort of laugh when I say stuff like this. How far off is Milan from Inter? Is it just one or two players, or is there more to it? I am going to say that this question came in obviously before Milan had reached the summit of Serie A, and it was a question that we kept thinking, we got to answer this. But I think overall, when we're talking about right now Inter look like the formidable side, and Milan is sort of, trying to challenge, how far off are they? What do you think? Is it a case of a couple of players, or do you think there's a more of a financial issue there?
Yeah, it's a really sort of tricky thing to pin down in one sense, I think, because when the two teams were on the pitch together in the derby most recently, Milan won, but as I was saying on the main podcast this week, I thought that Inter looked like the better team noticeably. I thought in terms of the quality of play, the cohesion, I thought Inter just played better football. And it was kind of this weird quirk that Milan were then bailed out in a sense by a player who hasn't been that integral for them for most of the season, Giroud, who has lots of quality. He's someone who's, I think, probably been underappreciated in his career overall, but who has not been central to who Milan are this season, who saves them. I think Milan going to, or at least can continue to get better without signing anyone, actually, if we talk about one or two players, because they've got so many young players who are moving in the right direction. You've got Leao, who I've raved about on the main podcast. You've got Sandro Tonali. You've got Mike Maignan. There's one or two who may not be there next season. I think Frank Kessié, there's a lot of us expect him to move on this summer. There was talk of that happening as soon as January. But there's growth that's going to happen, continue to happen naturally. I think probably at some point, if Milan want to make the step to being back at, ready to compete every season for the Scudetto, ready to fight in the Champions League, stand toe-to-toe with the big teams, probably they do need, not a lot, but they need one or two of those signings that, and I don't mean you have to go out and sign someone for 75 million euros like Juventus did either, by the way, but you need to make a couple of smart, high quality signings to add that little bit of metal to the young group. And you've already done that, I guess, you're trying to do that by bringing in Ibrahimovic and Giroud, these experienced players, but I think maybe you need the equivalent of that, but like 27, 28 instead of 40. Is kind of what I think this team needs to make that last step. But I think they're going to continue getting better even as they are. And look, despite when they were on the same pitch as Inter, looking to me like a worse team than Inter, they're ahead of Inter right now. And I think it's entirely possible they win the league this season. So there's not much in it at all.
No, there really isn't much in it, but it is, for me, it's not a case of one or two players. I think it's exactly like what Nikki says. It's more of like a sort of a financial thing, in the sense that it's important when we talk about Achraf Hakimi, Romelu Lukaku and Antonio Conte. They are two guarantees that help you win a title, because it is, to win a title, there are just so many aspects. But what Pioli has done is close the gap between the likes of Inter and Juventus, who can spend that kind of money, to Milan, because he's created that wonderful team ethic and produced excellent tactical schemes in which really Milan can score from any which way you want them to. They are a very fluid side, and that obviously, like just like we saw against the manage against Sampdoria, it was a long throw, perfect distribution from a goalkeeper, rather, to have Leao run onto it and score a goal. So he has managed to close the gap, but you do find that the team is working much harder than any other teams in order to always guarantee their place. And sometimes that is difficult to do for a number of years, and that's why money needs to be invested. But for me, I don't know if I can say, it is obviously smart investments, but I do think I feel like it does need to be sort of a £60 million player. And I think it's somebody who has won or is accustomed to winning that can make the difference. Because Brahim Diaz is wonderful, Leao is wonderful, Castillejos, Salmakers, whoever you want to mention. But consistency is key. And obviously there's not always going to be somebody who will produce that unless it's somebody who's produced that over a while. So it is having sort of a veteran and somebody who makes the difference. but who is still young enough to be able to provide the consistency and the availability required that Ibrahimovic and Giroud cannot do at the moment. So it is, for me, it's a question of money. Right now, they're just working their socks off to try to close the gap. And I do think that they have a chance of winning this title. It's not beyond them just yet. But if they are a team that want to compete in all competitions, they need to have squad depth. They need to be able to take off a player and introduce another one in the way that Juventus can and Inter can. And so that is the special salt, because Napoli do have a perfect system. They have had excellent players all along, many of which play for their national teams. But the truth of the matter is that, you do sort of need to keep your Cavanis at times when you are chasing the big titles, and that when you are facing the likes of Liverpool, that you do have to provide more consistency to those results and show and transfer that dominance that you can manage over certain teams like Sampdoria over to obviously other sides. So I guess money, but that will come. And right now, the way that the team is built and has progressed, I think it's sensational work from everyone involved. So I love the way that they are building themselves. So maybe just a little bit of patience and we'll see what happens.